Hey, what's up, Hog Pods? Thanks for tuning in to the Hog Knows One podcast. Got a really cool visit tonight with Eddie Pearce with Pembs Hogs all the way from the UK. Welcome to the show. Tell me about your logo name and your business name.
It's nice to speak, Kev. So my page name for my hobby is Pembs Hogs. Basically, it's Pembrokeshire, where I live in Wales in the UK, and Hognose, so I just abbreviated it. The reason I started it is people were stealing my pictures on Facebook, and I just watermarked basically my pictures, and I just come up with the name Pembs Hogs, and it's stuck, and it's pretty simple, but it works.
Very cool. So, next question. What other species do you currently keep or have you kept in the past?
So other species I've kept or I keep currently. I've kept almost everything and bred almost everything, but currently I keep a few corn morphs, king snakes, sand boas. That's pretty it really in the reptile shed, but outside I keep a lot of European species, amphibians, great crested newts, midwife toads, salamanders. I really love that side of it, to be honest. It's really nice to have things living naturally in your garden, obviously within enclosures, but really big enclosures. That's pretty much it really these days.
Question 3. What is your favorite hognose morph and why?
So my favourite hognose morph and why? This is really hard. I've been very fortunate to produce many world's firsts over the years. There's loads, like the purple ice, which is the Arctic toxic, the super Arctic toxic, the purple punch. I made the lemon ghost super anaconda, which I called citrus. I've done the purple line version. I've done the lemon ghost candy. I also like the frosted morphs. But if I have to narrow it down, or if I was only allowed to keep one, I suppose I'd go with the lemon ghost. To be honest, it's an unbelievable gene. The variety you can have from a clutch is unbelievable, and obviously other clutches you can have really basic from it. You can produce almost all normals. You can high percentages. It's crazy gene. It is absolutely crazy, to the point where I thought it was a dominant gene the first few years when I bred it. Obviously Jeff originated it, but I worked with it for years then, and it was acting like it was dominant. But obviously I was just fortunate to have produced really good high percentages which were replicating. So basically I was having bandings, I was having womas from it. Such a complex morph, but probably my favourite. I'd have to stick with the lemon ghost, yes. Definitely.
I definitely find it interesting, kind of your recircling, if you will, back to the color traits. So I've kind of found myself doing the same thing with reds, and obviously I'm working with a new line, a conglomeration of pre-existing lines. There's 5 or 6 different lines: Extreme, Purple, Wildline, Red Shadow, Raging Red, Phoenix. Maybe that's it. But basically, in the mix of those, I call that Project Red, and just varying degrees And there's a lot we don't understand. And I know with the lemons originally, Jeff had told me that he had combined about 5 different lines in there. So we can put it under a banner and say, kind of like the Project Red, that all these yellows code for certain traits. But at any given time, it could be a big menagerie of different expressions or genes. One gene relies on the other. We're seeing that a lot in ball pythons. We see that with dogs in something called epistasis, meaning one gene is reliant on another gene to express. And so, I just find tremendous fun with what you just described. And I definitely am looking into the lemons and yellows just like I have with the reds. Just really fun stuff. Question. Any frustrations with the hobby? This could be misinformation that's out there. It could be the hognose themselves. It could be keeping or breeding. It could be other breeders, marketplace, kind of whatever. Your thoughts?
My frustrations with the hognose hobby and community. Oof. It's a subject in itself. The last few years, if I'm honest, I've taken a bit of a step back. I don't want the negativity or the arguments or having to prove my theories to people. I'm still there to educate people, and I love educational posts, or I love a debate. I just don't like the pure arguments or the horrible side of it when people get personal. It's very difficult. These days I mainly offer help in just a small little paragraph and ask people to private message me. There's multiple ways of keeping hognose, and you can still get the same results. I feel sorry for the new people coming into the hobby. You post for help, and a lot of them, I say the high percentage of people mean well, but then you also just get the randoms that you should know this before you start, etc., etc. I've learned, I suppose, my knowledge from making mistakes. No one wants to make mistakes, but we do, unfortunately. So basically just a massive step back for me, but I do offer help. Those days, I suppose, of posting regularly have gone. So these groups are public, and you have to understand that if you post publicly, you're going to get positives and negatives. It's just how you deal with them, or how people deal with them, and I don't want to be posting negatives. So yeah, I still offer help, but mainly in private message. I suppose that's the way forward these days. It's quite confusing for people starting out. For instance, the subject of hognose eating, scents. But I go back to the basics. If you keep a hognose enclosure perfect, then they'll eat. Mine will eat all year round, to be honest. Obviously I have to replicate the temperatures and keep the background temperatures stable, but I've had hognose that will eat all year round. You don't need a scent. But yes, I do use scents occasionally, but that isn't the way forward. I suppose the groups these days just, try this, try that, do this, do that, and you cause massive problems in the long run. But it's hard to, I suppose, highlight that without a big argument these days. So I'll probably leave it there at that. It's a massive subject, and I could speak all day, I suppose.
Well, I definitely see what you're saying on that, mirror you on a lot of those perspectives. It's definitely a frustrating deal. I myself don't even get on there anymore because I was having the same, I don't know, just feelings of having to defend myself constantly for having a different opinion or the same opinion. And unfortunately, a lot of the stronger personalities rule those roosts. I've heard others in this podcast even talk about how that it's almost a gatekeeping deal where they want to hold on to old notions and ideas and just basically be a troll. And it's like, why? We can develop and grow in our knowledge together as a community, and things can be cohesive. But again, it's just different opinions, and I have to respect that element too. People can voice their opinions. But yeah, like you, I think it's a frustrating thing for newcomers to come in, because it's like either fit in with the pack or get left behind. And I think a lot of times it conveys a false sense of not only purpose, because a lot of the individuals that are bullied turn into bullies themselves because they feel like they have to defend themselves constantly. And I just don't even associate much anymore with the Facebook, especially. It's just become kind of stagnant for that purpose. Not that there's not good information going on in some of the groups, but some of these personalities that float in, oh my gosh, it can be really troubling. So jumping into number 5, wisdom you could go back and give yourself if you had to white knuckle or School of Hard Knocks through stuff in your journey. What wisdom would you go back and tell your younger self that would probably fast forward you or slingshot you into a better place as a keeper or breeder?
Right, so if I could give some wisdom, it'd probably educate yourself more. There's a lot of books out there which are basic, but there are some really good books out there like Kevin has produced. But it doesn't beat speaking to people that have been around for years, like Jeff Gelwood, here in the UK, I'm always liaising myself with Gary Morris, was Stuart Raby back in the day. Some really good breeders that have been around a bit and they've learnt loads. I'd probably tell people as well, like, I've lost that many projects with just having like a 1.1 or something, so I'd probably say if you really invested in a project, try and get 2.2. I've grown stuff on for years and random deaths, etc., and just never fulfilled those projects. Such a waste of time, and I generally don't waste my time either with possible hets. If possible hets pop up, sometimes it's in my favour, and other times it's quite annoying. But yeah, another thing I'd probably say, don't stress so much on the food aspect. Snakes don't eat every week religiously in the wild, and they will have months where they don't eat at all. As long as their background is good, like the husbandry, they can last ages. I've had snakes 8-9 months off food, maintained their weight, drinking, so there's nothing to worry about. Obviously there is times when you have to worry, but generally no. I'd like to thank Kevin for this opportunity of doing this podcast with him, and good luck with it in the future. Thanks, Ed. Eddie Pearce here at Pembs Hogs.
Thanks again for tuning into the Hog Knows One podcast. If you're a hog pod or you just want to share with anyone you know, we are offering a discount code for our books via our book printer, Book Baby. So just punch in code 2024 at checkout for any of our Hognose titles. I've got a couple other titles on there you can check out as well. As of right now, we have concluded the recordings for season 1 interviews. It's just a really busy time right now with everybody getting eggs or hatching eggs. So we will conclude interviews. If I've talked to you already about doing an interview for for this podcast. We will pick that up sometime midsummer, maybe fall. But it looks like right now we've got enough interviews to carry us on through midsummer, maybe a few weeks past July 4th. So thanks for hanging in there and being patient with us. And I promise lots more good conversations to come. Thanks again. Catch you on the flip side.